Okay, take a deep breath. Just settle in for a second. In this explainer, we're going to look at your everyday life through an entirely new biological lens. We are diving into the hidden neuroscience behind that modern burnout, distraction, and anxiety that so many of us feel on a daily basis. Basically, this is the story of our ancient biology violently colliding with a hyperspeed digital world. So let's start with a little thought experiment. Imagine taking a human from, say, 100,000 years ago and just dropping them directly into your typical Tuesday. What happens? Well, within seconds, they'd be completely paralyzed by sensory overload. I mean, think about it. There's a mysterious device vibrating in their pocket. There are sirens blaring down the street, and millions of glowing pixels are constantly demanding their immediate focus. To an ancient mind, our completely normal everyday reality is just terrifying chaos. But here's the really profound biological truth of our era. Your brain, it's almost completely identical to theirs. The exact same biological hardware that helped our ancestors survive dense, dangerous forests and apex predators is what you are using right now to scroll through social media. Technology has evolved at absolute light speed. Our brains, however, have not. And it's that fundamental mismatch that's the root of our modern exhaustion. All right, let's get into Section 1, a brain built for survival. For over 99% of human history, our minds were optimized for one thing and one thing only: surviving in nature. And evolution is an agonizingly slow process, right? It takes thousands of generations to carefully fine-tune a species. Modern technology, on the other hand, is blindingly fast. The smartphone is just a few decades old. Social media is even younger than that. The world around us changed exponentially, practically overnight. But our underlying biology is still totally anchored in the distant past. To put it simply, it's like installing Formula One software into a bicycle. Your brain literally just hasn't had the time to adapt to this new environment. You are out here trying to navigate a hyper-stimulated, high-speed digital reality using this ancient wiring that was only ever designed to keep you safe from physical danger out in the wilderness. Which brings us to Section 2, hijacked by modern technology. Look, we have all experienced this. You tell yourself, I'm just going to check my phone for 1 minute. And suddenly you realize an entire hour has just vanished into thin air. It feels like this massive personal failure of willpower. But here's the thing. This scrolling trap, it's a matter of primal neuroscience, not laziness. Your brain is actually perfectly executing a survival program that was written tens of thousands of years ago. Let me explain. In the ancient world, paying attention to sudden stimuli literally meant the difference between life and death. A rustling bush might hide your next meal, or it might hide a predator. So your brain learned to investigate every single unexpected signal instantly. Today, that rustling bush is a sudden vibration in your pocket. It's a bright red notification icon. Your survival instincts honestly cannot differentiate between a life-threatening alert and a totally meaningless social media update. Your attention is just being violently hijacked, again and again. Now, consider the sheer, overwhelming volume of data we process every single day. Imagine asking your ancestors to consume the amount of information you face in just one morning. Global news, endless emails, flashing advertisements, group chats, short-form videos. Early humans really only encountered a handful of truly vital decisions each day. Today, we are just flooded with thousands of inputs before we even finish breakfast. And all of this leads to a psychological phenomenon known as decision fatigue. We are constantly forced to make hundreds of these tiny micro decisions. What should I watch? Should I open this notification? How do I reply to this email? Every single one of those choices consumes actual metabolic energy in your prefrontal cortex. So the more decisions your ancient mind has to make in this hypermodern world, the more your cognitive reserves get drained. You aren't just physically tired at the end of the day, you are neurologically depleted. And this exhaustion is deeply compounded by how we process stress. Thousands of years ago, stress was a temporary thing. A predator appeared, your adrenaline surged, and you ran. Once you were safe, your nervous system just cooled down and returned to a calm baseline. But modern stress, it never leaves. Deadlines, bills, endless notifications, they constantly trick your brain into this perpetual fight-or-flight state. Because there's no physical escape from an email, stress hormones like cortisol remain permanently elevated. And that leads directly to chronic anxiety and severe burnout. Plus, this constant stimulation drastically alters our brain's dopamine baseline. 100,000 years ago, big rewards were rare, and you had to work really hard for them. Today, your brain receives these tiny artificial dopamine hits every few seconds. A new like, a short video, endless, infinite scrolling. This hyperstimulation literally trains your neural pathways to expect nonstop rewards, which makes natural, slower activities like reading a book or having a deep conversation feel agonizingly boring by comparison. We've essentially adapted to a baseline of endless digital chaos. So, what do we do about it? Let's move to Section 3, the need for restoration. To fix this, we have to deliberately give our overstimulated minds a break. You know that deep sense of calm that washes over you when you're just sitting in a quiet forest or a park? Well, that is scientifically validated by something called attention restoration theory. Natural environments place almost zero demands on your directed attention. Instead of aggressively processing urgent, high-stress icons on a screen, your brain gets to softly absorb birdsong, open spaces, and swaying trees. It allows your overloaded neural pathways to finally power down and recover. Now, this biological recovery is absolutely most critical during sleep. Our ancient biology was synchronized directly with the sun. Bright mornings, dark nights. Pretty simple. But today, artificial blue light and late-night screen time severely delay the brain's natural melatonin production. It creates this brutal, vicious cycle. Poor sleep destroys your focus and mood the next day, which then increases your stress, which naturally causes you to doom scroll late into the night looking for a quick dopamine hit to feel better. It is an endless loop that relentlessly attacks our biology. Okay, moving on to Section 4, designing a better modern life. The really good news here is that we do not have to throw our phones in the ocean and reject technology entirely. We simply have to use it intentionally. Consider two vastly different morning routines. First, the digital morning, waking up and immediately flooding your brain with global news and emails while you're still lying in bed. Versus the aligned morning, waking up, drinking some water, and getting natural sunlight for just 10 minutes before ever looking at a screen. Managing your attention in that very first hour completely alters your brain's biological state for the next 15 hours of your day. Reclaiming your mind requires setting some actionable, science-based boundaries. First, turn off every single notification that isn't from a real, actual human being. Take quiet walks in nature without a screen or even a podcast playing. Protect your sleep. Maybe try charging your phone in another room. Practice deep, uninterrupted work. And talk to people in real life. These aren't just trendy productivity hacks, right? They are vital survival strategies to actually align your modern routine with your ancient biological needs. Modern life is a true technological marvel, and technology itself is definitely not the bad guy here. Technology isn't the enemy. Forgetting how your brain works is. Your ancient mind evolved to chase food, not followers, to notice predators, not push notifications. You possess an absolutely incredible biological instrument that carried humanity safely through thousands of generations. Thank you for joining me for this explainer. The question you have to ask yourself now is, will you let this modern world continue to hijack your ancient brain, or will you finally start designing a life that honors it?